Hi, welcome back to Cap at Home. This is the Monday series. We're doing paper mache. This is the third part of our four-part series. So today we are going to start making a paper mache mask. So this is what my end result is going to look like, more or less. So you will need an apron if you want. If this project gets pretty messy. I also have a plastic tablecloth to protect my work area. I have a bowl and a whisk to mix my paper mache mixture. And for that you need a cup of flour and a tablespoon of salt. And I have a cup and 1/4 water. So I'm just gonna let that kind of sit for a minute. You will also need some newspaper, so I've already torn it into strips. So this is about an inch wide, and it doesn't have to be exactly an inch, but it's good to be around an inch wide. See, some of them are kind of thicker, so I can just tear those down as I go. And you will also want a balloon. That will be the form that we're going to apply the paper mache to. And for this project, to do a mask, I am going to use a piece of string, and that just kind of helps make this sort of like the bridge of the nose area. And it's a little bit subtle on this one. But what you will do is you will tie your string. If this mask is for yourself, it will be, you want to measure where the bridge of your nose is. So that's about here for me. So I'm just going to tie that. And that way it'll fit me pretty snugly. So I have this sort of diameter, so this mask will fit me pretty well. And then I'm going to blow up the balloon to be about the size of my head. What do you think is it? It's pretty close. I'm going to let a little air out. And then I also have another bowl that I'm going to use to prop up the balloon so that it kind of stays stationary while I'm working. So in order to make it a little bit more face shaped, because I don't know anyone's face it's like perfectly round like that, I'm going to slip the string over the balloon. And that just kind of creates a nose bridge. And it's going to be a little bit subtle, but I think it just really helps keep your mask in place while you're wearing it. And it gives your mask a little bit more of like a realistic feel on your face. And you can decorate your mask however you like. I'm going to change it up a little bit for my next one. So you can see here, that it just gives it a little bit more shape. There. So paper mache is like a two-part kind of a combination of things. You've got the wheat paste, and then you've got the paper. So I'm just going to mix this up a little bit. You want to get most of the lumps out. And then for cleanup, I've got a garbage can with a bag in it. And then I'll just have some warm soapy water if I get paper mache anywhere I don't want it. So I'm just going to lay the paper strips covered in wheat paste over the balloon. And just kind of dip paper strips in the wheat paste, and you use your fingers to kind of smooth it off and kind of like a squeegee motion. And just try to smooth out any creases or any wrinkles as best you can. And you're going to want about 3 coats, 3 layers of the paper mache on your balloon. And you're also going to want to layer your paper so like each strip just kind of slightly overlaps with another strip as well. And they don't really have to be like perfectly even strips of paper, because like the layering is what is going to work to bind them together. And you kind of think about how you want to decorate your mask when you're done. I know I'm going to want some glitter. You can also paint over your paper mache, which is what I plan to do. This one's a little wide, so I'm just going to make it a little bit more narrow. I'm just going to try and smooth this layer so it really gets this crease that I made with the string. Curve rather than crease. So I use this piece of string. You can use any kind of string that you want. I just happen to have a piece of yarn. But I used a piece of yarn that I tied to the diameter of my forehead right at the top of the bridge of my nose, so that will contour the mask when it's finished closely to my face. Alright, I got one layer mostly going vertically. Now I'm going to do a layer going horizontally, and it doesn't need to be quite as long, so I'm going to rip a few of these in half so that they're shorter, and then I'm going to go the other way across. And you want to make sure that you get your entire strip of paper covered in a wheat paste. Otherwise, it's just not going to stick as well. I can already see that I've got some gaps between my first layer. So it's good that I have a second layer. Just make sure that you go over it 3 times, because that just seems to be a good habit to make sure that it's sturdy and there are really no gaps. And then as you work, you kind of want to wipe away some of the extra wheat paste mixture, because if you have too much, it'll take so much longer to dry. And in my previous videos, I showed you how to use a hair dryer and a paper bag as like kind of a hands-free sort of makeshift oven that's just specifically for working with paper mache. And that way you can kind of concentrate the hot air from the hair dryer in one area, and then you don't have to sit there and hold it the whole time, which is nice. So this is a really great project. You can use any kind of paper you want. I happen to have newspaper. It's kind of in excess. And then I'm going to use kind of a longer piece to go around the whole shape of the mask. And just kind of make an even or a more even line. And the way that I wrapped the string around the balloon, I kind of made the front of the mask a little bit more shallow, which is fine, because I don't plan to cover the back of my head this time. don't worry too much about having a perfectly even edge, because you can go ahead and trim that with scissors later on once it's dry, but you want to make sure that it's completely dry or it will be very difficult to cut. Now we're to just about the third layer. You just want to make sure that each strip of paper has a good even coating of the wheat paste. And you want to make sure that each layer is made out of overlapping strips of newspaper that are completely saturated in the paste. Just about done. And then I noticed when I did the bottom of my lantern that a lot of layers kind of converged at the top, or rather the bottom of the balloon. So like it became the bottom, but right now this is like the top of the balloon. But just because it's a curved surface, you end up getting a lot more thickness. So to avoid that, it's just good to work with smaller pieces of paper. And then you can kind of control a little bit the placement. Because if you have like one really thick area, it's going to be difficult to trim later. So I'm just going to make sure that it's more even. And a good way to tell that I've got my 3 layers is that I really won't be able to see the orange of the balloon. So I can kind of see it right here still. So when you hold it up to the light, you can see through the paper a little bit because it's wet. It kind of gains some transparency. See? Once it gets wet, you kind of notice you can see through it a little bit more than you could earlier. So that's just a good thing to watch out for while you do this process. just about done. I'm just looking for any more spots where I can really see through. And I think I'm going to do another layer around the edge here, just because it'll make me just feel a little bit better about the whole process, I guess. Be sure that it's even, because not every piece of paper is made it all the way to the edge, because I started using smaller pieces. So I'm just going to kind of be careful as I go through it. I might just trim that. Something kind of satisfying about making something yourself. You can really choose, once you get good at it, how it's going to turn out. I'm going to do this side. I can see that I've only got like maybe one layer in this spot right here, so I'm going to use like a whole strip of paper there, one that's like much longer. And you can see a missing spot right here. So I'm going to use one of the shorter pieces to get that little area. Oh, and this, so I've got some smaller pieces off to the side. I'm just going to give it another look and just see. Smoothing it across. It's easier to smooth out the wrinkles while it's still wet, because once it dries, then it's done. You know, it is what it is at that point. And you can sort of paint over it, and you can add like just paste to it. But it's just easier to make sure you have a smoother surface if you smooth it as you go. Hey, that one tiny piece just came in handy. So that looks pretty good. I don't really see any orange where I don't want to see orange. So that's a good sign that I have a nice even paper mache form that I will turn into a mask in the next video next week. So stay tuned. Make sure you check us out next week to see the mask finished, and make sure that you tune in to Cap at Home at our new time at 4 p.m. We've got a lot of good projects, super fun projects coming up for the rest of the week. We hope to see you then. All right, have a good day.